happening, then they call you fast and they tell you to self-quarantine and stay. But for my case, because I was having this chest problems, and I was in a building where someone had it, I called. And so when I called them, they told me now before this, let me say this. Through the Kenyan embassy, we had been told by this point that if you, regardless for Koreans and foreigners, checkup is free.
Okay.
If you are found to get it, then the treatment would also be free. And so we're calm at this point, knowing that the government is taking care of all of this. And on top of that, the immigration office also extended. So normally our visas expire on March 30th, and we renew them. Like me as a student, the immigration office automatically extended it one more month. So anyway, that's just the background. So I was able to, so I called them and they scheduled for me to go there. But number one thing is they asked me whether I had private means of transportation. I said no. So they sent an ambulance for free. So they sent the ambulance for free. It picked me up. I went and got tested. So they give you a specific time to go to that place. And what it is there are tents outside. So they don't want to have you inside the hospital, again, to protect the people in the hospital. So with the tents outside, they give you a specific time, so then you don't have many people going there at one time. So then, you go there and then they check your temperature, and then there was a lot of fumigation going in, because then they don't want you to, on your way to get tested, to infect people using public transportation. They also don't want you, when you get there to be tested, to now, I'm going to be tested, then I track the virus, so they're very careful. So they tested me, and then they told me that they'd give me the results in 4 days. But within those 4 days before getting the results, I could absolutely not leave the house. Even to throw away at takataka manini, you cannot leave the house and you'll be fined. And there's CCTV everywhere, so you can't leave the house. And again, it's not just because of being fined, it's because of me taking care of, the people around me and me too. It's just this feeling of togetherness. Like with this coronavirus, we have to, fight it together and just take responsibility.
And so, Valentine,
so that's
what was the outcome?
The news came later on that I don't have it, so I don't have the virus. I was very relieved, but I had a time of reflection during that time. But also, even because I do know some people who have it, even for the people who have had it, like a Korean friend who was found to have it, the government is taking care of them and even giving them food, right?
So we're looking at the numbers and seeing that so far the deaths have been about 120. The recovery rate shows about 3,500, but there are still 5,410 people that are being treated for the virus, for the COVID, that is the disease itself. So how would you describe the sort of care that they are being accorded? In which hospitals? How many would you be talking about? Because here in Kenya, we have just a few hospitals that are ready. We understand in about 39 counties, including the Mbagathi Hospital, which has a bed capacity of 120. What is that capacity that you would describe in South Korea?
Okay, so this is just from my experience. I don't have the exact specific numbers, as that is not my profession. But in Daegu, for example, because this was a hard-hit area and there were so many people being tested, we had to ask for doctors from other different cities to come in to help us. And now they went on ahead now, because of hospital beds and everything, they now are requesting universities to, because universities have dormitories and everything, to allow, there's one specific university in Daegu that was requested to allow people to stay there. And so they use those type of facilities, and so they're quarantined there, because there's lack of, even for a country like this that is quite okay in terms of, technology and the medical systems that have been put in place, right? It's overwhelming as a nation. But one thing I could say, yes, South Korea responded very rapidly during this time and had the systems in place. But I was talking to a South Korean friend of mine, and she mentioned H1N1 that happened in 2009. And that was a flu in 2009 in Korea. And so many people got infected. And what she told me is, I could be wrong, but what she told me, you can confirm. But what she told me was that around that time, it seemed like the Korean government was not as prepared because so many people contracted it, but they learned from that and they set up so many systems were put up in place on how to deal with this. So much communication, task forces that were put up so that this time around when we had the virus, there were already some systems in place.
Right.
And they were ready to act very fast.
Okay. And Valentine, I want us to conclude this. So in Kenya, we're being told that we have to alter several things from how we are used to doing them. There's the quarantine itself for people that are coming into the country or those that have gotten into contact with such people. But there's also people being required to stay at home. I don't know how the situation has been for you in South Korea. How has social life changed? How is your working environment changing?
So basically, this is the 5th week I'm indoors.
Whoa.
Number one, it affected the first 2 or 3 weeks. We were just completely in the house. Yes, one thing is people are always busy doing their things, especially in Korea. But they realize that with being quarantined, yes, there are negative sides to it, but the positive side to it is you're able to know one another, as a family and to work from home. But again, for my classes were affected. Because I'm doing my master's in education here, it was pushed back for 2 weeks. And currently we're using Google Class and Zoom to have our classes online, thanks to the technology that's been set up here. So the first 2 weeks, people did not go to school. But because we've been quarantined for about 5 weeks now, we needed to get back to things. So from this week, we started having classes online. That helped. But please, it's very important to self-quarantine. Please, please, please. Because of this, compare Daegu has thousands of people who have it. You have another city maybe in Korea that maybe just has less than 100 people. But just here in Daegu, there's thousands because of maybe one patient and a few people who decide not to self-quarantine or give information to the government, And so it's not to be taken lightly. Yes, some people might say, I'm not going to die if I get it. But can our hospitals manage about 80% of people who are being hospitalized in Kenya,
That's
thinking
right.
about that. So
yeah. Very interesting conversation there. And of course, Valentine tells me that she's a student there. She's also the public relations officer for the Kenyan community in South Korea. And wish you everything good as you continue with your work and as well as you continue with your studies. And thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. Of course, that has been Valentine Njoroge speaking to us. Valentine Wanjiku speaking to us from Daegu to tell us about her experience. She's very happy with that. I don't know. I don't know which county do you come from here in Kenya?
Wanjiku, common Mwananchi.
Yes, Wanjiku. Which county do you come from?
Not Njoroge. I come from, Kiambu, Nairobi, Kiambu County, Nairobi County. I'm a former Loreto Msongari student. So hello to all my former classmates.
And where is your family? Is it here or you're with it?
They're in Kikuyu. They're in Kikuyu area right now.
Okay, if I were you, I would send greetings, but all the same.
My grandma, everyone. And I'm praying for you. I really am. Okay. And my family has also been really checking up on me on WhatsApp groups and everything. So I thank.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Valentine. Like I said, if I were you, I would send greetings, but that time is now gone. We need to take a short break, but when we return, we'll be speaking to Dr. Ngoe Nsenga, who is the team leader of the World Health Organization, the region of East and Southern Africa. Dr. Ngoe Nsenga will be speaking to us from Nairobi, of course, as we continue to keep the social distance and avoiding unnecessary crowding here in studio. He'll be telling us about the situation in the region that is East and Southern Africa. So we take a break.